Has there been and will there be discussion with the AWU on the construction upgrade?
Well, another thing that Mr Dutton doesn't seem to understand is that the role of the federal government when it comes to these road projects is to help fund them. It will be a matter for the Queensland government to enter into contracts for the delivery of that project. But I would expect that the similar industrial arrangements will continue under the new government as occurred under the previous government. And what that generally saw was that the Australian Workers Union had coverage and membership when it came to building these types of projects, particularly in regional Queensland. That'll be a matter for the Queensland government to resolve. But as I say, I think this is just another really disappointing exercise in negativity from Peter Dutton, that rather than thinking about the big picture and thinking about Queenslanders, he wanted to try and turn it into some sort of meaningless political fight over nothing. He should have actually just committed to this straight away. We had 3 days of the Shadow Treasurer, Angus Taylor, refusing to commit this funding. We saw yesterday, I think, on your network, the Shadow Infrastructure Minister, Bridget McKenzie, described this and other projects as a splurge and not in the national interest. So it's taken 4 days for a Queensland-based opposition leader to realise that Queenslanders actually need this investment rather than the ongoing political games.
Why has there been such neglect and underinvestment in the Bruce Highway?
Well, again, that would be a good question to put to any coalition member that you have on the program in the future, Leigh, because there's a very clear difference between the approach that federal Labor governments have taken when it comes to investing in the Bruce Highway compared to what we saw under repeated coalition governments. On Monday, when we announced this funding, the Prime Minister made the point that when he was the infrastructure minister in the Rudd-Gillard government, he significantly increased funding to the Bruce Highway, billions of dollars more than what we ever saw under the Howard government. And again, when the Morrison, Abbott and Turnbull governments got into power, we saw neglect of the Bruce Highway again for years. So despite the fact that the LNP holds 21 of Queensland's 30 federal seats, every time they take office, they neglect Queensland. And I think it comes down to the fact that they are arrogant when it comes to Queensland. They arrogantly believe that they can hold 2/3 of Queensland's seats while neglecting Queensland rather than actually delivering on what people need. So what Labor has done is take a different approach. We haven't worried about where these seats or who holds these seats. We've just acknowledged that there's a need because Queenslanders' lives matter, and Anthony Albanese and Labor are investing to protect those Queenslanders' lives going forward.
Finally, very quickly, we know the PM is in Western Australia, about to head back to Perth. What's the focus of this visit?
Well, I've seen the coverage of the Prime Minister's visit to WA, and obviously I joined him in parts of Queensland as well. And I think he's shown a really positive outlook for the year ahead, Leigh. And I think it's becoming very clear the choice that voters will have when it comes to this federal election. On the one hand, you've got Anthony Albanese and Labor who are serious about building Australia's future, assisting people with cost of living pressures, making sure that wages are rising above inflation. And on the other hand, you've got Peter Dutton and the coalition who want to take us backwards. They've opposed every bit of cost of living relief that we've provided. They initially opposed the tax cuts before being shamed into voting for them. When it comes to wages, they've already said that they will unwind the changes that we've made and actually ensure that Australians are paid less at a time that they're dealing with cost of living pressures. So I think this has been a really good opportunity for the Prime Minister this week to highlight the positive agenda that Labor has to build Australia's future, assist people with their cost of living pressures and help make sure that wages continue to rise, rather than Peter Dutton, who wants to cut people's pay, put up their power prices with an expensive nuclear plan and ignore the real pressures that Australians are under.
Thank you for your time and your insights. Murray Watt, Employment and Workplace Relations Minister.